Thanks for tuning in to F1 coverage on Proline TV. Greg DePalma here, along with our lead motorsports analyst, CJ Radoon from rotowire.com, fresh off of the greatest motorsports day of the year. How's it going, CJ?
Going well. Too bad Monaco was the least racy race, I would say, of the day. Unfortunately, we talked a little bit about the mandatory two pit stops coming into play to try to spice things up, and it definitely changed things up, but I'm not sure they changed for the better. So I think they need to rethink how they do that. You had a mixture of Williams cars backing up the entire field. We talked last week about how you could basically drive 40 miles an hour around that track and keep everyone behind you. That's exactly what the Williams cars did in order to build enough gap for their teammates each to pick.
Oh, that's fun.
Position, exactly right. And then you had George Russell and Mercedes just make a complete mistake out of everything. George Russell got so fed up behind that train of cars that he ended up blowing the chicane and just saying, I'll take the penalty and I'll see you later, because the penalty is not going to be as bad as getting held up this long. And then they actually gave him a drive-through, gave him a worse penalty because it was blatant. It was kind of a mockery of the rules. And
I give him bonus points for creativity.
They should have, in all honesty. And Toto Wolff and Mercedes actually admitted after, which is very rare for Mercedes, that they actually forgot that they had two mandatory pit stops until about lap 60 of the 72 or 74 lap race, whatever it is. So just a complete kind of farce of a race. But as predicted, we had a McLaren come out on top.
Yeah. And also, look, it's one of those situations where it looked like Leclerc was going to, get some drama again here.
Sure.
But he just missed out on the pole. And so he just misses out on the pole. And then he really just missed his only opportunity of the race at the start of the race. When Lando kind of, spun his tires a little bit, and that was it. You had your chance, and it was just following him the rest of the race.
Yeah. Ferrari definitely punched above their weight, and the uniqueness of the course, the slow turns, I think really played to their favor. We saw Leclerc win last year, only Monaco born driver to have ever won his home race. Definitely made a show of it again this year. But again, at Monaco, it's all about having that pole position and getting to turn one first. If you're in the lead, you can control the race, and that's effectively what happened. And then two quick cautions right after, a virtual safety car just gave the opportunity for those who were smart to duck into the pits after literally one lap, to be able to go and make their first pit stop of two that they had to make that day, losing as minimal amount of time as possible. And there you just, after that, you ended up with kind of a processional race after that, which quite honestly is what we've come to expect from Monaco over the past several years.
Yeah, that was kind of weird, the whole thing with Verstappen waiting until the very last moment to go and take his second pit stop.
Again, just waiting for the opportunity to have a caution. If any, at Monaco, a caution could happen literally any time because it's so narrow and it's so tight. Any kind of incident is going to result in a yellow flag or a virtual safety car. And that's effectively a free pit stop in Formula One. They don't close the pits like in NASCAR. Under a caution, you can immediately duck in, and if it's timed properly, if it comes out at the right time, you effectively get a free pit stop. And he would have gotten his second pit stop, probably would have come out in the lead and would have been able to steal that race. Unfortunately, it didn't come, but that's why they left it all the way until the last lap.
What I liked about it,
what was interesting though, in leading up to that stop, I don't know if you heard or anybody who was watching heard, they did the time as to, okay, if he gets a penalty for he gets that 30-second penalty for not stopping, not doing that second stop, he ends up moving back to fourth. If he stops, he ends up moving back to fourth. So either way, if he would have stayed out and taken the penalty for not doing his second mandatory pit stop,
Wow.
or if he pitted, he would have ended up finishing fourth. However, if you blatantly disregard, again, I think
Oh, there we go.
would have come down a little bit more harshly, maybe disqualified him altogether. So either way, had to do it. He was going to finish fourth anyway, unless that caution came out. Unfortunately for him, it did not.
Yeah, I mean, it sure is. Look, I get the whole deal with Monaco, history and all, and it's it's aesthetically beautiful part of the country. There's no doubt about that. Everything is nice about but it's not. It's sort of like what we deal with NASCAR with the older tracks, that they're just not good enough for the racing today. Was it ever really like
No.
so unlike NASCAR, it never really was. Well, maybe with the older cars many years ago, like
Yeah, these
50
cars,
years ago.
it's never really been great. It's never been, at least in my lifetime, it's not been great. It's just about the spectacle. It's about the glitz and the glamour and the beautiful yachts in the harbor and everything. But I think the current rules package, the current cars, really amplify the things that are bad about it, because these cars are probably the biggest Formula One cars in maybe history. They're wide, they're long. It's a very short and narrow track, and you just can't fit two side by side going 100 plus miles an hour. So I think if we end up with some rules changes, perhaps some refueling being reintroduced into the sport, maybe a tire war between Pirelli and another manufacturer, maybe that'll help spice things up. But as far as on track action, Monaco is not the place that I would recommend you go looking.
Yeah, it just show you how bad it is. Is there's 2 laps to go in the race, 3 laps to go in the race, and Leclerc, who's been, even though Max is first, he's not. So Leclerc is like on Norris's ass just about, I don't know, for a good deal of late in the race. They were all kind of compacted. So he's right there. And yet, with 2 laps to go, 3 laps to go in the race, the announcer is basically already claiming Norris winning the race. And it's like, how weird is that? That you have one car is right next to the other car. There's still 2 laps to go, and it's basically over. So that's something that you just feel like it has to. It just can't be the. I don't know. Again, we've gone down this road a lot. It's not an American sport, so our opinions don't really matter. But that's the thing that is just so funny. Because it doesn't make any sense for the American fan how you can say something like that.
Yeah, Monaco is the crown jewel of Formula One. It's never going to go anywhere. It's been on the calendar since the very first Formula One season in 1950, along with Silverstone. In England, I just can't see Monaco going away.
Sure.
I saw a suggestion from, I forget who it was. Maybe it was Leclerc, maybe it was someone else after the race early this week, said something like, why don't you just make, since qualifying is the race, why don't you just make qualifying the race? And quite honestly, I agree with that. Maybe you do make it, some kind of situation where the most composite fast laps in terms of like an aggregate time, maybe that ends up winning the race or becoming the race. That would certainly be more entertaining than watching a parade of Formula One cars that cannot pass one another for 70 some laps, which is what we got on Sunday. The one thing that they cannot do is this mandatory 2-stop thing. It did not work. I don't think it was a gimmick to begin with. I don't think it truly injected anything different into the race. That has to go away. That it would have been more entertaining from my perspective just to see, them try to be perfect for 72 laps or whatever the amount of laps was, rather than forcing them into some kind of artificial strategy that people ended up doing weird things with anyway, anti-competitive things.
Well, I'm going to definitely note this for next year when they race there. And that is the fact that when I looked at the odds, Lando Norris was minus 160. That's not bad.
For virtual guarantee win since he was on pole. Absolutely.
Now, the only way he can lose is he does something stupid,
Yep.
which doesn't normally happen. So the odds are with you in that circumstance.
Yeah, and he was plus 150, I think, on Tuesday or whatever day that it was that we did it before the race. And he was even with Piastri. So again, and we even said it then, whoever wins a pole is likely going to win this race. And I would have expected the odds to be -3, -4.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
But if they're -160, yeah, by all means, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing a parlay, and that's what I was thinking about. I was like, I don't usually do -160, but and I would have had to put a little bit more money than I wanted to, but it was really a good. I mean, if I was somebody that wagers like thousands of dollars, I would have done it. So yeah, that did make a lot of sense, and that is something that we will definitely talk about next year. Prime Tire newsletter. Let's see, their title: the Monaco GP is still broken.
I agree.
So we've all seen why Monaco is still a frustrating dud. Let's see what they say here. Strategy was the new overtaking and not in a good way. The two-stop rule, which is what you talked about. You talked about them slowing down deliberately. I mean, how awful is that?
Yeah, I mean,
slowing down deliberately.
Yeah, almost the entire field, half the field was bunched up in a train that nobody could get through just to enable a Williams car to pit, and without losing a spot. Like, nobody's watching the Williams cars. People are watching. I mean, people are watching Williams cars. Yes, I get that, but people are really watching Leclerc, Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, and then here you've got this race really kind of thrown into a parade by a mid-pack team trying to maintain as many points as they could get. So good for them. I mean, they exploited the strategy and they apologized afterward for what they had to do. But in all honesty, the rules made it. And I think the rules have got to change. I think it was a dumb rule to put in.
Is there any way at all to, I mean, is shortening or lengthening the race? Is there anything that could, I know it's shortening the race would more than likely do, but is there anything maybe even lengthening the race for any sort of like what the Coke 600 does?
Yeah, it's not a bad idea, actually, because the reason why they instituted the two-stop rule was because there's almost always a yellow flag. And so drivers get that free pit. And you can generally make Monaco a complete distance on one pit stop. And it doesn't matter really how early in the race that comes. You can nurse your tires all the way through to the end. So I think if you extend the race, rather than artificially saying you have to do two stops within this amount of time or this amount of distance, you actually force them to do two stops just because they physically cannot make it. That might actually be the way to go. It would make the race probably go outside of the time limit that they have and the distance limits that they have. So they'd have to think about that. But that's probably the best option with the rules as they stand right now.
Okay. Let's do something we have not done in a while. We'll take a look at the futures. Who do you think should be the championship leader right now, odds-wise?
Piastri.
Odds, what do you think it should be? What do you think? And is in the plus or are we at minus?
It's going to be plus 3.5 maybe.
Oh, okay. It's not bad. See? Lando Norris.
Lando at 130. Wow, because he won Monaco. I guess I probably should have taken that into account. It seems like Las Vegas has very short memory. Interesting. Yeah, I think it's one of those two, unless, we'll see this weekend. This weekend's going to be very interesting at Barcelona or Catalunya for the Spanish Grand Prix, because this is a track that all the teams know really well. It's another European track. It's not at all like Monaco. It's got fast corners and slow corners, which I think will play to McLaren's strengths. But this is really where we're going to see the full complement, I think, of current evolutions of the car. So all the upgrades that Red Bull conceivably could have will likely come out this weekend. Same is going to be true for Mercedes and Ferrari. So I think this week will be a very good measuring stick for where the cars stand and where the teams stand versus one another. If the Red Bull upgrades are working wonders, continue to close the gap to McLaren, then I think Verstappen probably will start coming down. But the reason I would have put Piastri at plus 3.5 would have been because his stiffest competition would have been coming from Lando Norris, and I probably would have put Lando Norris at a plus 4, to be honest with you. But I think right now it's definitely between those two, but we'll see this weekend whether Red Bull or Mercedes can really close the gap with upgrades.
Okay. Regarding the track, what are we dealing with here?
It is a track that's been around since 1991. They know this track really well. They used to do a ton of testing here in the off season. It's got a lot of fast corners, a couple of slow corners as well. I think, again, that it's got 2 DRS zones. It's a traditional natural terrain road course, so there are some elevation changes, a really long front straightaway, but some pretty good racing can take place here. This is where we saw the 2 Mercedes cars crash into one another, Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg, several years ago when they were battling one another for the championship. This isn't necessarily a track where whoever gets into the first turn first wins. This can become a strategy track. You can pass here as well. So this will definitely be a more interesting race than we saw last week. I do think the track layout and the combination of corners and speeds favor the McLaren, the way that they're able to handle their tires throughout an entire run. But again, like I said, we'll see what Red Bull is able to pull and give Max Verstappen from an upgrade standpoint, see if they're able to continue closing that gap.
Okay. Let's take a look at the odds and who is going to be favored.
Well, based on what I saw in the futures, I'm going to say Lando Norris is going to be favored because he won last week, though I think it probably should be Piastri. They're probably going to be pretty close to one another. I'll put them both at plus 1.5, 150 again.
Okay.
Not far off. There you go.
No, 175. So even Steven. And what do you think Max should be based on what you said at this track?
Max should probably be about 3.5.
Okay, Max. Yeah, almost there. 3.3. So let's see. Max.
I do think a Mercedes probably should be next. Probably, well, certainly George Russell. And he's probably 5 or 6, to be honest with you, if not further back. 14.
Oh, way back.
Yeah.
And Leclerc. And even though Lewis Hamilton, of course, it was like a long time ago, it seems, when he won this race, 5 straight times, I believe?
Yeah.
And he's got 6 wins total.
Yep. From 2017 through to 2021, won every single race from first except for one. He started second.
And Max is on a 3-race winning streak here.
3-race winning streak, twice of which he's done from the second starting spot. Only once he's done from pole. And if you look all the way back to at least the 2000s, the furthest back anyone has started and won would have been Fernando Alonso back in 2013. He started 5th in the Ferrari and ended up winning. Max Verstappen did win from 4th in 2016.
That's right.
So again, this is a track where strategy and passes can happen. So you don't necessarily have to be on pole and get to that first turn first. It certainly helps. But I think, you probably have to be on the front row to have a chance.
It sounds, I mean, it seems like to me, though, this is a good week to take Max.
It would be. Yeah, because likelihood, he's been spectacular at qualifying, likely to be able to get himself on front row. You don't know what the upgrades are going to do. They have been closing the gap. And if Max Verstappen is able to get out front, he's shown that he can stay out front and they can do the right strategy. They can make the right calls. And if he gets a free pit stop with a virtual safety car or a safety car, the race may well be his. Yeah.
So if you're McLaren, do you make any changes historically when you're the leader and you're dominating? Do they just, you're the ones I got to make change? We don't have to do anything.
No, you definitely have to continue.
Okay.
developing your car. The only question is when is McLaren going to say that we've got so much of a gap and we're in such a good spot that we do stop. I don't think that's going to be for a while yet,
Okay.
because again, they're going to be developing next year's cars, and next year's development cycle is going to be a lot longer, and they're going to have to dedicate more resources to that because it's going to be a whole new rules package. So it's going to come at some point. But yeah, McLaren cannot sit on their laurels. Red Bull, Max Verstappen are going to be breathing down their necks very quickly if they do.
Okay, let's get to picks. And who are you going to go with?
My top choice is going to be Piastri, again, for race win. I'll take Verstappen as my long shot. I will leave out Lando Norris.
So does that mean that you're going to take, instead of going with the top 4 or a manufacturer, so let's take a look at the, let's see. All right, let's see what the winning car is like. So it's 225. It's a little lower. And then, so you got 225 on McLaren, or you can go with the top 4. Let's see. You've got Russell, Leclerc, Hamilton. So you've got a choice, one or the other.
I'm definitely not taking Hamilton in the top. I think Ferrari has got a long way to go. Even with the car in Lewis Hamilton's hands, I think they have a long way to go. So Russell would be my choice. I'd probably take that negative 125. The McLaren at negative 225, I was expecting that to be negative 3. So maybe I go McLaren as the team. What was interesting was Red Bull was +3, whereas Verstappen, you're getting +3.3. And granted, if a Red Bull wins, it's more likely than not going to be Max Verstappen, but why not take the +3 and get both drivers instead of just one, just in case anything crazy happens?
Okay. So what would you prefer? Would you prefer winning car or George Russell?
I'm going to take the winning car because I would have expected that to be significantly lower. So I'll take winning car as McLaren.
And that was 225, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so there you go. What do we got looking? What are we looking forward to? Because we have a break finally.
We have a week off for a break. Yep, and then we go to Canada. Then we have another week off, and then we'll be back in Europe for Austria at the end of June.
Okay, so just 2 races in the next month.
2 races in June. That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And so let's see. Okay, so yeah, and to look forward to, what's the Canadian track like? What is that like?
Canadian track is often called Monaco without the buildings.
Oh no!
It's a bunch of slow corners. It's a more entertaining track. It's not as bad as Monaco. It is narrow.
Okay.
It's a bunch of slow corners, though. It is a track where if you get to the first corner first, you're likely to win, though. A little bit more roll of the dice than I would say Monaco is, though. So a little bit.
All right.
This week is really the one, like I said, with Spain on calendar, with the track the way that is. I think this is the one that's really going to be a measuring stick to see how close Red Bull is to McLaren.
And Max really needs to put like 2 wins together, or 2 out of 3.
Yeah,
at the very least.
Otherwise it's going to be shaping up to be a runaway between Piastri and Norris. And right now, from the standings perspective, Piastri's got a 3-point lead over Norris. Lando Norris has a 22-point gap over Max Verstappen. So like you said, Verstappen's got to start winning some races. Probably 2 out of 3 would get him up into the mix in the top 3.
Well, his championship odds are still low. So, but yeah, it's one of those deals where you would think taking a McLaren driver, getting a plus is a good thing. The problem is it's like flipping the coin. Yep. It's like, which way do I go?
Exactly.
You only got one choice, really. All right. So that is going to wrap it up for our F1 coverage. You can check out our NASCAR coverage. We did that live this week. That's already been available on the channel if you're interested in that. Same thing. We have additional NASCAR videos here on the channel for F1. We're going to be back in 2 weeks to talk about Canada, and we're here all the way through December. So we're not going anywhere. CJ, appreciate it. And RotoWire, you have basically, more than likely, if you're watching this video, there is a link in the description for your DFS report, correct?
You're right. We'll have best bets and a fantasy preview for DraftKings, Fantasy Duel, whatever it is you play, in the link at rotowire.com for you.
Appreciate it, CJ.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
See everybody. See you in 2 weeks.